This is part 9 of this series. Catch up on previous parts by clicking the playlist linked in the description. Today's the day the Southern Country Training Camp begins its all-around military arts competition. The ground forces, maritime forces, and the musketeers were going to compete to show off how far they've gotten in their training. The knights were going to be divided into groups to keep things fair with their blessings. Sophia was exempt from participating, however, given the three forces would fight over her guerrilla might. So instead, she'd be their first aid attendant. And learning this, Isaac was going to do his best to get hurt. What a simp. Carissa and the gang were here to also cheer Sophia on, so things were definitely going to get rowdy. Captain Victor led the red team, representing the ground forces. Shin, the blue team maritime force, and Archit, the green team musketeers. Sophia would cheer her man on from afar. The first event was the obstacle race, and Isaac was daydreaming about Sophia, leading to Victor getting the jump on him, making agile leaps, thanks to his gray wolf blessing. Then, hearing the next event was a swim race, Isaac expresses his lack of confidence in swimming. Sophia was also right there with him, considering gorillas generally couldn't swim. Then, seeing Luis with his shirt off, ready to swim, Sophia started to blush. While Luis was getting warmed up, he was approached by Gilbert, a member of the maritime forces. Gilbert had heard Luis was getting a lot of praise for being the youngest knight candidate, and he was here to show Luis how useless that title was in the sea. Gilbert was certainly a swift swimmer, thanks to his orca blessing, leaving Luis in second. With Sophia approaching him with the towel to dry off, Gilbert was shocked seeing a girl had joined the knights. He was conflicted with thoughts of her being weak-looking and also kind of cute. She quickly gave him his towel and ran off, since he was staring so much. While she was giving Luis his towel, Gilbert came over to gloat. Luis even complimented the guy humbly, but Gilbert just replied cockily, comparing Luis's way of speaking akin to an honor student. He was about to ramble on until Captain Shin told him to stop, and surprisingly, Gilbert backed down immediately. The third event was close quarters combat. Participants would be using guns filled with clay bullets. Each team would have 6 members, and the team that still had members remaining would win in the end. Starting, Archent flew up and shot opponents down immediately. Eddie was doing his best to survive, knowing he'd have to face the sharpshooting Eagle Commander one-on-one. And luckily, the red team's captain gave him something he could use to take Archent down in a single blow, a tactic that would definitely embarrass Eddie. Archent flew down, seeing a blonde-haired girl crouched on the forest ground. Being the gentlemanly playboy he was, he offered to get her to safety, since this was supposed to be the area used for night training. But this would lead to Eddie taking off the wig and eliminating Archent point blank. The next event was a scavenger hunt. Sophia was surprised to see the boys storming towards her, as their instructions said to find someone strong who could run 40 kilometers per hour and crush an apple with their bare hand. She was about to dip out, but Luis would grab her hand first and take her to the finish line. Things were pretty much evenly matched on the scoreboard. The Knights would then suddenly get an alert of a rock slide along the shore, where the terrace of an adjacent hotel had been partially destroyed. Gilbert and the maritime forces were about to lead the ocean rescue, but were stopped, learning a school of poisonous fish had entered the harbor and it was dangerous. So, Captain Shin stepped in, telling them to enter the waters after 1 minute. He was going to use his jellyfish blessing to put the fish to sleep, with a bit of light poison. Everyone was pretty much saved, except for Carissa, who was stuck floating on an umbrella. Sophia would then rush, using her gorilla powers, picking up the umbrella, holding stable on the water with Gilbert and Luis's help. And with Gilbert seeing Luis being able to keep up with him, he finally acknowledged Luis's abilities. After the exciting events, the squad celebrated with an evening banquet. Victor and Archant started fighting over Sophia to join their respective squads, musketeer or ground. And with the captain of maritime, Shin, entering in, he had no interest, once again reminding them gorillas couldn't swim, unless she provided defense for their ships. Wrapping up the exhausting evening for Sophia, she came to see Luis for a little flirting time. But this would be interrupted by Isaac, so instead, they just watched the fireworks together. On another day, Sophia ran to meet with Luis at the capital. She was late because she hadn't returned to the dorm after training. It had run a bit long, mostly because Commander Volk didn't know how to stop once he was fired up. Luis suggested they buy her a new outfit first, since she might draw too much attention to herself in her uniform. The two were shy, but excited, because today would be their first date since going out. All the while, Grandmaster Cheval received a report about a crime in the noble quarter. Luis blushed, steamed, heated up, basically every adjective you could use to say he was in awe over Sophia's beauty and new clothes. She got a fresh haircut, where the barber from before told her to be more attentive towards her sense of fashion. Then, she and Luis had sweets and ice cream around town. We learned Luis lives on his own in a place his relatives used to live in, and with him inviting her over to his place after this, she began to panic internally. It was all so sudden. Her heart definitely wasn't ready. She then realized she let her imagination run wild, since he was just inviting her over for dinner. The Knights were investigating the attempted assassination of a duke. He barely survived, and they determined it was the work of anti-monarchist group Daybreak, and that the explosives were set somewhere, but they wanted to keep things on the down low to avoid unnecessary panic. Luis took Sophia to the marché. It was her first time coming here. Things were fun until they were leaving. They overheard some locals expressing getting sick of being worked to the bone by the nobles again. They felt it was awful having everything in their lives determined by their blessings. Luis knew that was the unwritten rule of blessings. The problem didn't just plague their kingdom, it affected everyone. He wished he could do something about it. They arrived at his place, and Sophia was surprised. Luis had told her it was a small rented property, but it looked like a nice looking home. He suddenly remembered he forgot the spices and told her to wait inside while he went to retrieve them and let her know he could keep the spare key he handed her. When he came back, she had already started cooking. She assured him she wasn't too skilled. She had to learn how to control her strength a lot. The two shared a lovey-dovey moment, with Sophia nervously feeding him. After their meal, she stared at the necklace he gave her. It was precious, since it was the first thing he had given to her. She never wanted to be apart from it. He suddenly held her. He had no idea she was so strongly attached to it, even worried, since he only knew how to show his affection with gifts. But to this, she told him she loved him. She didn't want him to worry about stuff like that. The two shared a kiss, faces both red with blush. But before things got too crazy, he noticed her clutching her dress and then pinched her cheeks, offering to walk her back because it was getting late. On their way, he apologized for not considering how she felt and for trying to rush things. But she responded that wasn't it. It's just she's never done anything like that before, and was nervous since she didn't know what to do. He was fine with it, letting her know they could move at their own pace. Sophia began her run back into her place, since it was close to curfew. But suddenly, two mysterious men began to attack, caught off guard by her guerrilla defense. She tossed both at once, smashing them into the walls, knocking them out. However, she'd be caught off guard by the mist in the bottles they carried, putting her to sleep. Leohart would then rush to her side, putting his lips on hers, uttering that he needed her by his side. Then, the explosion lit off. What is going on? Find out in next week's part by subscribing to my channel. For now though, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.